In addition to exploring the possible antecedents of theater, scholars have also theorized about the motives that led people to develop theater. Why did theater develop, and why was it valued after it ceased to fulfill the function of ritual? Most answers fall back on the theories about the human mind and basic human needs. You ought to know what to do to help a person who is choking. First, you stand behind the choking victim and put your arms around his or her waist. Second, you make a fist and place the thumb side against the person's stomach, just above the navel, but below the ribs. A water stores rainwater once it filters through the soil. Once the water soils are saturated, water will either percolate deeper or run off the surface. This can result in freshwater aquifers and springs. Also, water moves through the soil to seeps and springs and is ultimately released into streams, rivers, and the ocean. The basic premise in the management of any system is the ability to minimize risk. In the context of an ecosystem, one of the important questions is the integrity of the environment and how this integrity is compromised by management. With mismanagement in ecosystems, the risk of permanent damage to the environment is very high. This means that while conferences and seminars may provide some useful information, the books currently available on advertising and how to do it, those that are available tend to treat the process of producing advertising with too much respect. The magnificent cathedrals of medieval Europe displayed the most profound expression of religious sentiment. The architects and artists worked in anonymity, their Gothic arches and towering spires proclaiming their faith in a God in heaven. The devices also could patrol the corridors of the space station, checking for gas leaks, smoke, and unusual bacterial growth, or remind astronauts about the next tasks on their daily to-do lists or of the need to send a birthday message to a loved one at home.
Until the early 1960s, newspapers published separate job listings for men and women. It wasn't until the passage of the Equal Pay Act on June 10, 1963, that it became illegal to pay women lower rates for the same job strictly on the basis of their sex. Unfortunately, I cannot find the exact passages on the internet, but below are my memories which are very close to the meaning of the real test question. The Wrights dated the origin of their interest in flight to 1878, when their father had presented them with a toy helicopter. Though currently, it appears quite possible that the two most dreaded diseases, cardiovascular disease and cancer, can be treated or prevented with the use of catechins, a group of polyphenol compounds found in tea leaves. This protective agent is found in the Australian gardens that grow tea. During the Second World War, the Americans feared that the Japanese might invade North America from the Aleutian Islands and threaten sea communications between the United States and U.S. bases in Alaska. An overland road link was planned and begun in the spring of 1942 to go through Canada to Fairbanks in Alaska. The demand for petrol, diesel, and crude oil is also huge to cope with the demand for manufacturing plastics. People should ensure natural world can still work well to earn the future well-being because the world population rises. The wage gap is a statistical indicator often used as an index of the status of women's earnings relative to men's. It is expressed as a percentage, EG. In 2005, women earned 81% as much as men, and is calculated by dividing the median annual earnings for women by median annual earnings for men. Carbon dioxide, mostly produced by human activities, is the most significant one of greenhouse gases and has caused the rise of the global temperature and the sea level. So businesses should take responsibilities to tackle the problems inherited in the business models, and World Wildlife Fund partners with companies should ensure the sustainability of the entire market. Beginning in 1899, the brothers designed and built a series of gliders to test their various ideas on a flying machine. They constructed a wind tunnel that allowed them to test designs without having to build a full-size model. They even built their own gasoline-powered motor for their aircraft. Many technologies have promised qualities, but few have been commercially viable. What's been lacking is the performance data needed to demonstrate that these technologies are durable, genuinely environmentally beneficial, and suitable to be insured. The face of the earth is changing every day. People and machines are at work reshaping the land to build or extend cities and towns, and to make use of the countryside. Roads such as motorways and railways cross the land, taking bridges over rivers and valleys and tunnels through hills and mountains. In the past, distribution systems served as simple lines for sharing electricity from transmission networks among customers. With the integration of renewable energy generation resources like solar and wind power, modern distribution systems have gained greater independence from transmission networks. Tents were supplanted by more substantial abodes, and a permanent hearth became the center of the home. Numerous huts sprang up in fertile areas. Contact between families became more frequent and intimate. Villages grew. From village to village, a network of paths was worn.
It's time for this young loggerhead turtle to go to work. We can tether turtles in these little cloth harnesses. Put them into this tank and dull swimming place. University of North Carolina biologist Ken Lohman studies sea turtles that are programmed from birth for an extraordinary journey. Mother turtles buried the eggs on the beach and then returned to the sea, and the eggs hatch about 50 to 60 days later. The benefits and disadvantages of globalization are the subject of ongoing debate. The downside to globalization can be seen in the increased risk for the transmission of diseases. Globalization has, of course, led to great good, too. Richer nations now can come to the aid of poorer nations in crisis. Increasing diversity in many countries has meant more opportunity to learn about and celebrate other cultures. While advances in agricultural science have always been critical to ensuring we help feed the world, its impact and importance is even greater now as population grows at a rapid rate and the availability of arable land steadily declines. Science and technology solutions are essential to meeting growing demand for food, maintaining market competitiveness, and adapting to land mitigating risks. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear, dark night. Silent, timeless, jeweled with the constellations of ancient myth and legend, the night sky has inspired wonder throughout the ages, a wonder that leads our imaginations far from the confines of Earth and the pace of the present day out into boundless space and cosmic time itself. The survey found that the statistical chances of someone from a poor background being accepted at one of the country's most respected universities are far lower than those of a student from a wealthy family. This means that the inequalities in society are likely to be passed down from one generation to the next. A split would have appeared in wolf populations, he says. Those wolves that feared humans and those that didn't. So this would have facilitated, I think, the domestication process, at which point humans deliberately took wolves as pets. But that domestication process France says, may have happened more than once, first in the West in Europe, and again in the Far East in Asia. Nell says that, in order to seek protection from their furry foes, birds actually prefer to build their nests in plots of swamp with a resident alligator. In fact, in one study a graduate student planted fake alligators. The birds seemed to prefer to build nests close to them. Where there's a water source, there are alligators, so it's sort of this mode of protection around these colonies. History is selective. What history books tell us about the past is not everything that happened, but what historians have selected. They cannot put in everything. Choices have to be made. Choices must similarly be made about which aspects of the past should be formally taught to the next generation in the shape of school history lessons. An economic depression is a period of sustained long-term downturn in economic activity in one or more economies. It is more severe than a recession, which is a slowdown in economic activity over the course of a normal business cycle. Economic depressions are characterized by their length and by abnormally large increases in unemployment rate.